Hello there, this is Joel here, the manager of the Newcastle Wands. Welcome to episode 13 of the Quidditch Manager Weekly Update. I'm really keen to see how things have gone. We're 3 weeks into season 30. I've hardly looked at this game since last week when I did the last update, so I don't really know where things are at in Honor League or Gold League. I probably don't even have any friendlies lined up at the moment. I don't think I logged on yesterday. I'm pretty sure I missed out on Saturday as well because of the cricket. So we'll have a look and we'll line those up when we get into it. From memory, in Honor League, we had the Ashwinders, the Corgis, and the Legionnaires at the top, all very close to each other. So we're going to have a look and see how close they are with a week to go. We're match day 22, so that leaves a week and a bit. You can see here, no friendlies for me, although I did get a win, so that's nice. Not so good for the last 5 matches, but oh well. We're not going to get relegated. We're doing all right. I'm just going to accept a friendly nice and quickly here. The Swansea Alchemists, thank you for putting up some revenue. You're a champion. We'll fix this up, and then we'll go and have a look at the Gold League and the Honor League, because that's important. That is important. So let's duck over to the league page as well. And after we have a look at the results, I'm going to have a quick chat about something I saw on the forums, which I thought was very cool. A very cool idea, very well written as well. And I'll expand on a few ideas that I've got as well. You know they're going to be crazy. You know they're going to be a bit zany. But that's how we roll. So in the Silver League, the Diggers are at the top there. Second. Good to see the Diggers are back. And the Wolf Rudians are out in front. Out in front. But that should be a close finish as well. So the last week of the season, who knows what will happen. We've got the Gold League, the Shakers, the Knoxlow, and the Bromerers again at the top. Well done, guys. The Axolotls are just outside of promotion range. They may get through. They may get through. You never know. Ooh! And the Honor League. Okay, so the Honor League. That's close. That's good. So the Ashwinders, 8 losses. The Corgis, 9 losses. The Mifflins, 10 losses. The Legionnaires, 11 losses. So they're all close to each other. Again, I haven't looked at the head-to-head. Maybe someone on the forums has done a little write-up on how that's going. It'd be worth having a look at, because coming into the last week, like, there's clashes at the top there. The top 4 all could be first, all could have a chance of getting the coveted Honor League Cup. So that's close. Well done to the Ashwinders. I'm quite surprised that they're not out in front again like they were last season, and I'm glad that they're not. I'm glad that it is close. So well done, guys, on keeping your teams up and competitive. The Ashwinders as well, I think they've got a few players on the way out. Maybe not retiring just yet, but they've only got a couple of seasons left in them, and that reminds me of, I guess, the Devils and the Wands when the Diggers were so strong. The Devils especially were a very good team, and then just missed out because there's always a slightly better team, and then they lost all their players to retirement. So the Ashwinders are at least getting some wins. They're at least getting the cups in the cabinet before the retirements happen. So well done, guys. Well done. We'll go to our forums now. This is the quickest way that I can find to go to the forum, the way that I've got it set up for OBS. So we're just going to have to duck through some links to get to where we want to go to. I believe it was in suggestions. Yes, sponsors. So Speedy Reedy made a very good post about sponsors. As you guys know, I'm a big fan of decision trees in games, decision making, like decision points, forks in the road. You've got to choose one way or the other. And so Speedy Reedy made a nice little post here in regards to sponsors, and how at the moment it's very simple to choose the best sponsor in almost every situation. If you've got high popularity, you choose the Gobbler Bank. I did a video, what was it, a year or two ago, about the different payouts you'd get over the course of 60 match days, and that compared things like the wins you would get, or the wins you expect to get, and the galleons you get per day, per win, the upfront, all that kind of stuff. And in almost every situation, the Gobbler Bank won. Disease Delights, there was a point where if your popularity wasn't high enough for Gobbler Bank, Disease Delights was good in one scenario, and then was it Quafflon? They started with Q. So the other one, like that was the decision point, and that was almost it. That was almost the only choices you could make. So you can see here, Speedy's done a nice little table, a nice little graph on what the best sponsors are. And I think there's some highlighted areas. Here we go. So the highlighted areas at the top here, you can see Disease Delights made the most cash compared to the other options if you got no wins. I think that must be the only time. Everywhere else is the Gobbler Bank for the win. This second table here is some figures that Speedy, and I think Matt was also in on this conversation. A few changes were made in regards to the amounts that you would win, the daily amounts you would automatically get from the sponsors, your upfront galleons as well, and that made a lot more a lot more options, better at different tiers. So after 8 wins, 16 wins, 24 wins, so on, there'd be different best options. And I think that's really cool. So that's something that I think should be looked at by Andre, and I'm sure it will be at some point. Mainly because the sponsors is something that you do at the start of the season. You've got to pick a sponsor, and at the moment it's an automatic pick. You always go for the goblet banker, and you always go for the guys that save you a bit of cash on your expenses. And so I think at some point it's inevitable. It's going to happen eventually. There will be a revamp of the sponsor system. So why not put in your ideas now? I think it's a really good initiative that Speedy's done here with this particular post, with this particular topic. I'd like to see more people put their ideas up. Now, as you can guess, I have an idea or two. So I really like what's happened there with the dollar values, or the galleon values, I should say, in regards to making better sponsors, and that's a really good starting point. I would like to see, I guess, certainly for the second tier sponsors, some other sponsors that give you different expense savings. For example, like a really boring example is a sponsor that saves you cash on a dragon, because I like the dragon, the Swagon. So it saves you a bit of upkeep on that one. A more exciting version of that, by the way, a more exciting version of the Dragon Sanctuary Incorporated.com is that a sponsor would give you, like, your club a discount on the Swagon. But the more clubs that use the sponsor, the bigger savings all the clubs get for their Swagons. Because, and hear me out, this makes sense, right? If Dragon Sanctuary Incorporated.com had one dragon, or was sponsoring one club and had one dragon, one Swagon, then the upkeep wouldn't be too different. But if they had 20 Swagons, then of course, like, they could buy all of their food in bulk, and so save the cash, and whatever it is that they've got to do to sponsor the clubs with the Swagons, well, they would be able to do it better. So the more dragons or the more Swagons that they're sponsoring, the more savings each club gets individually. So I think that'd be a really cool idea. I don't know if there's any way at all to check that, or to I don't know how you would make a sponsor aware of all the other places that they're sponsoring, but I think that'd be cool. But my real idea, I guess, the real idea that I wanted to go into was something that came from, it might have been the 4th edition of Dungeons and Dragons. I can't remember, but I once upon a time played with my mates, and one of those mates is in fact the manager of the Cardiff Cauldrons. And there was, I think it was actually D&D 3.5. There was a class, like a class of rogue called the Trickster, I think it was, and the idea was that they could use charisma in place of some other stat like strength or dexterity, because rogues had lots of charisma, and that would allow their dice rolls to be better. So what I would like to see with a sponsor, or some sponsors, is a sponsor that would allow your club to substitute one attribute for another. So we all know that dexterity and agility are the most important, and they're probably going to be level 99. They get maxed out pretty quick. Speed and balance get maxed out, well, mostly maxed out as well, depending on what training regime you go for. Accuracy can get maxed out as well. If there was a training regime that did a lot of charisma, or a lot of morale, or a lot of something else, for example, and you could use that in place of one of your main stats, and I think that'd be a really cool way to allow clubs to maybe have different training regimes and do different things to make their players good. So in theory, if you would allow morale or charisma to be your main stat, and you could get them to level 99 by training in different regimes, you've got a bit of role-playing aspect there as well, because rather than these hot shots being, putting in all the time and effort to be the quickest, or the strongest, or the best throwers or whatever, they just use their natural charm to win matches, and they flick their hair about and they do whatever. I think that'd be a really different way of looking at the game, and maybe having different sponsors to allow more strategies. I haven't thought it through to the very end, because I haven't counted up how much morale you could train if you wanted to, in theory. I don't know if there's a way to max it out if you wanted to, but I reckon there'd be some really good, interesting strategies around having different attributes replace your main ones, because at the moment everyone just trains up the main 3 or 4, And that's understandable because it wins matches. It wins matches. So that's why you would do it. So I'd like to see sponsors that allow you to use different attributes as the main attributes, just because it makes a bit of difference there. I'd like to see a sponsor that would maybe activate the morale as a more important statistic. And I've had a few ideas about how you would make morale more important. I'd like to see morale allow teams that are behind a better ability to catch up, for example, or probably more accurately, when they're within snitch range, a team with high morale would be better able to get out of snitch range. They would be, like, they'd have that fighting spirit, for example. They'd be better able to get a few goals in a row, get ahead, get out of snitch range, and then push forth that way. So I'd like to see maybe a sponsor that could allow that to happen. So that'd be a bit special, a bit unique to that team, is that they would have morale as their little, like, ace in the hole if they're in a tight match, and that'd be really good for finals. It'd be good for the World Cup. It'd be good for, you know, any close matches. So I think as well, there's got to be some way to get morale to be important, and a sponsor that could activate it would be a nice thing as well. So there's just a few ideas there that go, I guess, beyond just the dollar value that you would earn from a sponsor. I think there's other ways to use a sponsor to make a club more unique. It's, of course, like I know someone here mentioned as well, stadium upgrades or stadium expenses will be a thing eventually. So sponsors that allow you to save some money on that, like that's all good stuff, and that's all going to happen eventually, I'm sure. But I'm just thinking out of the box because, you know, I like to think a bit differently. I like to see the world a bit differently. So that's just a few ideas for how I would like to see sponsors implemented as well. It's certainly very drastic, certainly very different. It'd be harder to, I guess, nail down what's balanced for it, but I just think it is a really cool idea that if someone wanted to implement it, I'm sure they could figure out a way to do it in a safe and you know, not unbalanced way, because we don't really want a club to, you know, to run away with it because they've got some outlandish strategy. Or maybe we do. Maybe that'd be a cool thing. Maybe that'd be a really nice thing to see in Quidditch Manager. Someone that can win the cup and do it in just the weirdest way possible, because there's a story there, like that you can tell a story behind that, and it is interesting. I guess everyone at the moment is doing the same thing. It'd be really top notch if someone could win with a different strategy, with a different plan. So that's just my ideas for sponsors. I'm really glad to see posts like this on the forum, well written, well reasoned. A few other guys jumped in and had their say as well. So that's all positive. I like to see that stuff on the forums. Apart from that, like I've got on my little list here, like, tangents, because we go on the Quidditch Manager Weekly tangent. I don't really know what to talk about, except that it's been a really weird week since the weekly update last week. I work on a leads-based system with my work, so I guess people go on the website and say, I'm on a home loan. The website sends me the guys that are in my area, and I talk to them. Well, last week, apparently no one did that. No one wanted a home loan last week, and all the people I talked to the week before, they're all stalled, because in Australia at least the interest rates are due to drop on the 20th. So there's a lot of, not that it's uncertainty, but a lot of potential or future clients are waiting to see how far down they go. Now I know for a fact that, like, all the lenders have communicated to all the brokers how far they're going. I know all the rates now, or what they're going to be in a week's time, but communicating that to, like, a client who just wants to see what's best, it's not easy. So it's kind of stalled. So certainly this week as well, it's picked up a bit. The start of the day is really quiet, and then the end of the day I just get done over. It's just like after lunch, you're sitting there twiddling your thumbs thinking, what am I going to do? And then you're working until 7 or 8 o'clock and you miss dinner. So, like, yeah, that's been the start of my week so far. I've been really trying to get one loan across the line for the last, it's probably since Christmas. And every day, every week, something else changes. Something else is a problem with this lender. But they're the only lender that will talk to us. So we've got to do what we can for them. But it's just an absolute pain in the butt. And it's been very stressful. I've had a good phone call to the assessor this morning, though. So I'm like, fingers crossed. We're at the finish line. It's either going to go or it's not. We're at that point now where there's no more information to provide. There's nothing else we can do to get it over the line. They're either happy with it or they're not happy with it. Fingers crossed. If it gets done, then the last 2 months worth of work will actually have some value to me. And if it doesn't get across the line, then I've wasted 2 months of work. So that's where we're at the moment. And I either laugh or I cry about it at the moment. That's how I feel. So That's the weekly tangent. I think there's not much else to talk about, except actually no. I've been playing Zelda. Majora's Mask came out on the weekend, and like it's my favorite Zelda game of all time. So I was really happy to be able to play it again on the 3DS. They've changed a few things in it to actually reduce downtime. So there's a lot of animations were cut shorter. For example, there was a lot of times in Majora's Mask when I originally played it on the 64 where, like an example is the Deku Flower in Clocktown, and you'd get the title, the Moon's Tear to get the title deed, and every time you did that, the Deku Flower would fly halfway across Clocktown to come and see you, and it took ages. It seems like a little thing that happened once every 3-day cycle, but it's just a waste of time. So they took that out. There's a few other things like with the owl statues where you don't have to bang it with your sword, which means you don't have to morph back into human Link. You can just go up and tap A on it, so that saves time. Animations from that as well, when you travel from one place to another, they're a lot shorter. It's just things like that where you're playing the game and you're already stalling anyway because you've got to get your ocarina out, you've got to get your song sheet out because you don't remember the songs, and you've got to play the song, and then you've got to travel. Well, at least they're cutting out some of that stuff at the end, which is where you're just sitting there and looking at the game. So I've been having a lot of fun with it. I got to the water temple though this morning because the girls go to childcare at 6:30, so I was up at 6:30 playing the water temple, and that wasn't a good idea because, well, one, they've changed it, so the water temple I remember is not the water temple that exists now. Apparently, it's supposed to be easier, but I was quite salty. I think salty is the word. Bitter, salty, full of vinegar, whatever you want to call it. But I couldn't get the green pipe to have water go through it, to push the water wheel up, to do the thing, to do the other thing, and it was I finished the water temple though. Yeah, because the final boss is different as well. So like you've got to do something entirely different for the final boss. But I'm enjoying the game again more now that the water temple's done. I think the water temple is notorious in Zelda games for being just frustrating, just very frustrating. You've got to change a lot of water flows to make to open up new ways to get deeper into the dungeon, to get all the in Majora's Mask. You've got to get stray fairies. You've got to get small door keys. You've got to get the treasure chests, which have the compass and the map as well, and the boss key. So you've got lots of things like that to do. It's done now. That's fine. I'm doing all the mini quests in the main town as well to get all the extra masks. So, and also the Cafe and Anju quest line, which is probably like the longest quest chain that I can think of, certainly in a video game back in 2000. And I don't know if there's many more since then, but basically in a 3-day cycle, you've got to follow the story of these two lovers who were going to get married on the 4th day, and one of them goes missing. And what happened, and mum's upset, and the fiance's upset, and all these other people in town kind of know something, but don't really know something, and you've got to run around and get all the information, and then figure it out, and then go to the thieves' place to find the thing that he stole, because that's the reason why the guy went missing. It's a great quest line, and I'm just trying to get through that at the moment, so that's been my, my week intertwined with my very stressful work at the moment, my work environment. So that'll do for the tangent, I think. We're happy with that. That's the update on Joel's life. And hopefully by the end of this week or by the next weekly update, I would have done a loan or two, and I'll be feeling a lot better about myself professionally and from a career standpoint. So we'll leave it at that for now. Thank you very much for watching this episode of the Quidditch Manager Weekly Update. And until next time, hooroo!